weeping as Cat came outside. He ducked his head and knuckled his forehead. "Mistress Hakesby?" "What's going on?" "God knows, I mind my own business." She glanced at him to see if he intended impudence. Ledwood looked gravely back, with no sign of insolence in his expression. He was broad-shouldered, a long-armed man with black hair streaked with grey. It was hard to tell his age, anything between 35 and 50. His forearms were bare, and there was a long scar running up to his right elbow. It looked like a sword cut that hadn't healed properly. He opened the gate in the wall for her. Cat went outside. The men were gathered about the nearest of the spoil heaps. 3 were standing on the far side, halfway up its slope, which made them invisible from the waist down. Brennan was below, shouting at them. Her business partner had a light voice, soft and reedy. His words were having no discernible effect. Cat lifted her skirts and negotiated her way through the mud. One by one the men fell silent and doffed their hats. Brennan turned to her. He was very pale, and the freckles stood out on his skin like Smyrna raisins in a pudding. "They've found a body." "Another one?" "This one's different," he said. "You'll see." The main range of the old almshouse ran parallel to Chard Lane, separated from the roadway by a paved area and a wall. The spoil heaps lay some yards to the rear. The nearest had been piled into the rectangular enclosures made by the former chapel and the cemetery beside it. In the early days of its history, the almshouse buried its own dead. "You," Cat flicked her finger at the 3 men still on the heap. "Come here." She watched them slithering over the rubble. The men had dug up partial skeletons of at least a score of people. They had been buried in their shrouds and nothing else. There had been one exception, a stone coffin containing a complete skeleton, perhaps belonging to the founder or his kin. A crucifix and a rosary had been among the bones, which meant he had been a papist. The almshouse had been founded long before the Reformation. "Pray give me your hand." With Brennan's support, she scrambled over the broken ground without too much loss of dignity. "Probably the rain last night," Brennan said. "Something shifted, something gave way. The ground collapsed." His grip tightened on her arm. "Have a care. It may not be safe. You never know what's underneath these places." She obeyed. Brennan knew what he was about, and she had come to trust his judgment in such matters. Craning her head, she saw a shallow cavity choked with rubble, broken bricks and charred planks. At one end a yellowing bone lay among fragments of rotting wood. "Not that," Brennan pointed. "There!" Cat followed the direction of his finger. She blinked and swallowed. She was looking at a hand, a man's by the size of it, still with its covering of flesh and skin. The index finger was at an unnatural angle, pointing at Brennan. She made out the calf of a leg nearby with thick black hairs sprouting from wax and skin, then the curve of a shoulder between them. "Can we move those planks?" Brennan nodded, following her train of thought. He called down to the foreman for a couple of short scaffolding poles and a rake. In 2 minutes the man had dragged the poles up the heap, while the rest of the labourers watched. They were muttering now, their voices growing steadily louder. Left to themselves, Cat thought, they would either sidle off to the alehouse or scrabble in the spoil heap in the hope the dead man had left behind his clothes. She ordered the youngest labourer, who was little more than a boy, to look sharp and fetch the constable. She set the rest to moving the largest spoil heap to the waste ground. Shoveling rubble into barrows was back-breaking work. It would leave them little time to gossip. "This won't please Mr. Hadcraft," Brennan muttered when the men were gone. "First things first, we'll talk to him later. And on top of everything else." Cat nodded. She looked at Ledwood. The watchman was leaning on his brush in the gateway that led to the site office. She wondered if he had heard. "Bar the gates," she said. "Let no one in until the constable comes." "A body, mistress? Whose?" "No one knows." She turned